everybody. I hope we're all doing okay. We are going to commence our Hustle Pro interview today, and I have with us Detroit native and entrepreneur, 2024 Techstars alum, and CEO of Aphid, Brandon Cooper. Give a round of applause. Brandon, thank you for taking some time out to talk to us today. So I would like for you to give us a background of just your your upcoming and your education, just so that students have an understanding of where you started as we go through your journey of where you are now.
Yeah, so as she mentioned, I'm a Detroit native from the west side of Detroit. A very nomadic life. So I bounced around and lived in a lot of different houses, a lot of different neighborhoods, as my mom was trying to provide for me. And I think this started it was the epicenter of really, it started my journey to become an entrepreneur, because for me it was just Super Bowl or bust. I always wanted something out of the norm, even since I was in second grade. But fast forward, went to Michigan State University, go green.
Go white.
And Michigan State was great for me. My college experience really changed my life. I've met a lot of friends there, people who are friends for life now. So that's essentially my journey.
So really quickly, give us a background of your major in college, and then how you finished that.
Yeah, marketing, and then minor was in merchandising management. Marketing is always exciting to me because you get to be a part of the creative process, to create things, to convey that to a lot of people who are seeing your products and services for whatever it is that you're building. So even if you're not even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're in marketing, you still get to create things for the company that you work for after you leave school.
Awesome. And I'd also like for you to briefly explain to the audience what Aphid is and the business model behind it.
Yeah, so Aphid, what we've created is a way for you to digitally clone yourself. That means you're taking the information that you already know and you're putting it into a digital form. And this is called an Aphid clone. It works on your behalf. So everyone is very familiar with the traditional job setting where you go into work, you put 8 hours in, and you get paid usually bi-weekly, like every 2 weeks. But what if there was a way for you to work in multiple places at one time? And you can do this by being digital. How many people in here have seen The Matrix? Show of hands, the movie, The Matrix. There's a moment in the movie where Neo connects something to the back of his head. He downloaded a fighting style. If you wanted to learn Spanish, you would have to spend the time, take a month or two to learn it, and then now you know that language. But the digital version of yourself, you can download that language to your digital clone, your digital self. And this all derived from me working at Apple. They were overworking me. And I said, man, I wish I could clone myself and have another version of me doing this work on the computer, and I can get compensated for my digital self. So this is the way of the future, and that's how Aphid was created.
Thank you for that. Can you share with us a little bit about the business model? So how does it make money? Who is your target audience? All of that.
Yeah, so it's based on a subscription plan. So you can choose, it's for individuals and businesses, primarily small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses. Solopreneurs are entrepreneurs who are starting their company. It's just them. They don't have a staff. You don't have the capital to pay them. It's very hard to run a company if you're not paying people, but if you can convince a few people, crazy people to join you and start a company, then great. But that's who we're targeting. So you can pay for the personal subscription, or you can pay for the small, medium-sized business, and then we also have one for enterprises as well, which are larger companies.
Thank you for sharing that. So we understand that you're an entrepreneur. You had this big idea, and we've learned a little bit about where it comes from. But can you tell us how you got started? Oftentimes we see entrepreneurs with this idea and this up-and-coming success, but for those of us who are trying to follow a similar path, they never give us how that journey started and really what you did to get there, because when you start from nothing, right, it's really hard to conceptualize building something. So can you give us that path?
Certainly. In college, I was introduced to, it was a network marketing company. You guys, I'm sure you start seeing them as you become older, but people will invite you to their house and they talk about how you can leverage your time through building a downline. You recruit people and things like that. But that was my introduction to entrepreneurship. But the one thing that it taught me is, if you're constantly at work all the time, you will never be wealthy. And wealth isn't important to everyone. But if something happens to you, if you get sick or you can't go to work, your money stops. And if you can't work and your money stops, then you haven't mastered finance and how money actually works. So that's my personal experience. That's how I got introduced to it. And I learned about Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. These are all books that I suggest all of you guys open up and read those books because it will change your life if you've never heard of them. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he talks a lot about law of attraction, how through energy you can attract the things that you actually want. So my entrepreneurial journey is really, really tough because it's hard. You see all these successful people, you see the Mark Cubans, and you see everyone on TV, Jay-Z's and everything, but you really have to understand how difficult it is to be an entrepreneur. And I was up a lot of 3 a.m. nights you go through pivots, right? A pivot is where you're working on something in the company and then you decide to make a swift change in maybe the business model, the pricing, or who you actually targeting. Twitter, when the company first came out, wasn't what it is now. They went through different iterations of what they thought the company was going to be, but your users and your customers are going to tell you who you actually are. And one quote that I heard was, your company isn't what you say it is, it's what other people tell other people your company is.
Awesome, I love that. Also, I wanted to kind of reiterate too, you mentioned some really good books. I also second that motion, but to Aphid's whole business model and point, if you don't have time to read it, Audible is a good, that way you can drive and read or listen and still download that information as you're doing something else. Multitasking is the future. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit more though about your startup. Like, what were the costs like, and how did you find investors? How did you find a team? And how did you afford that team? You foreshadowed a little bit to getting people to support your dream without being able to pay. So let's talk about the actual money behind it.
Yeah, so in a startup or as an entrepreneur, the very first thing is called bootstrapping. That means you're taking your own money and putting that money into your company. Most people don't have a lot of money coming out of college, depending on when you're starting the company. But if you're working a job, you take some of that money and then you're infusing that money into your startup. So that's called bootstrapping. And then the next thing that you do after bootstrapping is you have friends and family around. That means you're asking uncles, moms, dads, cousins, whoever it may be, hey, do you want to put a small amount into my idea, my company? You can get in right now at the lowest valuation. That means they're getting in at a sweet spot, right? Where their money now is going to go a lot longer in the future. Just like a stock. If you bought a stock when it was really, really low in the price, and it goes up from $5 to $218, you got in at the right time. So that's how friends and family work. But after that comes the really, really, really tough part. You're trying to convince venture capitalists, which is called VCs for short. So anytime you hear VC, that's a venture capitalist. These are people who have a wealth of money. They have investment bank, they have bankers behind them that give them money, $50 million, $100 million, it depends on what the fund is. So just imagine a fund is like a pool of money, right? So if Gale was a VC, her fund may have $50 million. She can now take $50 million and decide which companies that are pitching to her company that they want to invest in. So the same way that they just pitched their company locked in, Gale would decide to say, okay, we're going to give locked in $200,000 for their venture. So what you have to do as an entrepreneur is you have to decide how much you want to actually raise for your company. So you have to have what's called pre-seed, which is usually up to about $1.5 million. And then you have seed rounds, which are more like $2 million, $3 million. Sometimes you may see a seed round that goes to $8 million or more, right? It really just depends on the investors. So pre-seed, seed round, and then you have everything after that. I won't talk about like Series A and everything else, but as your company is what's called, when you scale, you're going up and getting higher, you're going to raise bigger amounts of money. So you'll start with 100, you may like locked in, may get $150,000 and be able to go to market. It's called an MVP. So you would create a minimal viable product, which is like the smallest amount that you need to actually create the product or service that you're offering to your potential customers, and then you go to market with that.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey to where you are now. It sounds good, right? I bootstrapped, I got investors, we got far, I joined this tech startup incubator, and now I'm here talking to you guys. Talk about your failures. What was the biggest failure and what was the biggest lesson you learned from it?
Oh, failures, plenty. How much time do we have? Failures, so let me start with this, guys. You have to, if you become an entrepreneur, you have to know that failures are going to come. A failure is not necessarily a failure. It is really just leading you to the room that you need to actually be in. So an investor, many investors have passed on me in general. Pitch competitions, didn't get in over the years. I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. You know, I've had different ventures that I built in 2015. I built networking apps. Know that the failures are going to come, but don't let those pitfalls deter you from doing your dream. Most people, and I want to keep it real here for you guys, because I'm very different from anyone you'll ever talk to. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you all of this surface stuff that people tell you. They're all lying. VCs are racist. They're going to look at you as a black man and see braids and see twisties and see a woman's cornrows or see your background, the way you talk, the way you look, and say no, just because of how you look. So me as an African-American entrepreneur, which is, you see more of us now, but here's a stat, less than 2% of people of color get VC, get invested. Less than 2% of people that look like me and you get VC. Funds allocated to you. That is discrimination, period. And what I've dealt with before is, it's not right on the surface, it's very polite, but you're gonna pitch investors, you're gonna send it to them. You're gonna know an investor is interested in you when you do a quick follow-up and they're anxious to invest in you. Always make yourself, as I would say, like the hot girl in high school that everybody wants to date, right? If you're knocking on their door, they can say, what do you want? But if you build a product and build real customers and real clients, they're gonna knock on your door and you get to say, hey, what do you want? You have created what's called leverage now, right? But I've had plenty of failures. I can't even count how many times I've been rejected for pitch competitions or pitching investors, but that just leads you to the next no, from the no to the next yes.
So you talk about pushing yourself to limits and thinking outside the box, but that is a lofty goal for someone who's just figuring out how to handle like homework and a part-time job, right? So as we grow, we have more and more responsibilities. That doesn't change. For those of you who don't know, Brandon is also a father and soon to be married. So tell us about how you manage your family life and entrepreneurship.
One of the beauties of entrepreneurship is the flexibility in time. There's a misconception that working for yourself, you're not working as much as you are on a job. That is a complete lie. You'll be, there's no one to tell you to take a lunch break at a certain time, and you may be in front of the computer for a really long time. But one of the perks, I would say, of being an entrepreneur is the flexibility to just close the computer and say, I'm done now. I'm gonna go ahead and watch a movie and watch Netflix with my spouse, or I'm gonna go throw the football with my son and play basketball at any given time. And what that's also doing for him is creating in his mind that, oh, my dad always had this freedom, right? Like, we want to go somewhere, we would go to the movies on a Tuesday at noon, everyone else is, doing other things, we can just go, right? If he has a day off, we can go wherever we want, we can travel, and not have to say, oh man, well, we can't stay in Atlanta for 3 weeks because I have to get back to work, right? All of these things create flexibility. So that's one of the best perks of being an entrepreneur, but try to find that balance as much as you possibly can. I try to do my best with my fiance to spend time with her. I think I do a pretty good job, but you have to ask her after how I do. But I'll make sure I know how to shut it off. A lot of entrepreneurs don't know how to shut it off. They're workaholics. You don't want to be that parent to, that isn't spending time with your kids or your spouse.
Thank you. So we talked a lot about the flexibility of entrepreneurialism and balancing that with work and home. But before you become this big shot entrepreneur who has command over your schedule, you're typically working at someone else's dream. How did you manage starting your business while propelling someone else's?
Ultimately, you try to find people who are, you have A players, you have people who will join your company, and you kind of know their wings are gonna grow, they're gonna probably leave and do their own thing. That happens anywhere. People can go work for Google, Facebook, and they feel like they're building someone else's dream. But I believe with me as a visionary, the people who have joined Aphid in particular, I've been able to lead them as a visionary for them. We're on a mission. There are companies who just build products and services, and then there are people who also have missions. Like there are social impact companies, people who do things for children, they want to feed the homeless, things like that. That is a mission. And some of these missions they're going to happen in perpetuity. It's never going to be complete. And you'll have people who work at those companies for you for 30, 40 years if you find the right partners. But you can't take it personal if someone leaves your company and they need to spend time on their own dream or their own job. So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
More specifically though, before you became CEO of Aphid, you were someone's employee. How did you balance your work life, being someone else's employee, with your family, and then still building your dream?
So yeah, that's tougher. So when I was at Apple, they were working me like a dog. It was really, really tough to balance that because as soon as you get off of work, you're trying to work on your company. That is a different ballgame. That's what really forced me out of the door to do it full time and take that leap, right? Most jobs, a bad job is going to treat you like a number, but the reality is you are just a number at a job. Right? You can do well for 4 or 5 years, 6 years, doesn't matter. You mess up one day, you can be fired that exact same day. So for me, it was really, really tough. And I worked from home, right? And I'm in my pajamas getting all my work done. And you had micromanagers who were hovering over you and asking you questions every single second. It's like a polished slavery, right? Like who wants to be in a job like that where people are hovering over an adult like that? So it was things like that, and the support of my spouse help me take that leap and get out of there as fast as possible. Like, while you're at a job, you want to recreate that escape plan. And you want to work as hard as you can to create that escape plan and say, okay, I'm going to take a calculated risk, I'm going to get out of here. And that was my driving force to create Aphid, to say, I need to get out of this environment that is no longer serving me. And here's my quote, and I want you guys to please write this down. You deserve everything you tolerate. I'm going to say it one more time. You deserve everything you tolerate. If you are in a situation, a bad relationship, a bad job, and if you are there for years, you deserve it. Get out of there as soon as you possibly can.
Okay, don't tolerate the bull. Okay, so you talk about this calculated exit strategy, right? What was yours? How did you say to yourself, I'm going to leave the safety net of my paycheck with a spouse and a child and decide I'm going to work for self? Because entrepreneurialism can sometimes be very unpredictable. Your paychecks are not the same as what you can depend on every 2 weeks from an employer when you're an entrepreneur. So what kinds of calculations or fail-safes or safety nets or anything that you put in place to feel comfortable to walk away?
Yeah, I had assets that I made through trading, like finance trading, and I was able to take that lump sum of money and use that as a runway so basically an amount of money that you have saved up, you can call it savings, you can have it in stocks, you can have it in crypto, whatever it is, and you have that money, it's okay, this is for a rainy day. So I took that money and I was able to live off that certain amount of money for a certain amount of time to get that rolling until you get your next investment, right? Most entrepreneurs don't pay themselves. So you may say, oh, well, yeah, when I get that type of money from an investor, can I pay myself? Well, technically you can, but if you're feeding yourself, you're also not feeding your company, right? So the majority of the funds that you get should be going towards your actual company and not you yourself, but you may have to live off ramen noodles for a while as an entrepreneur, right? It's tougher. So, you know, I'm sure someone may have kids out here, but you guys are young. Take as much risk as you possibly can before you have kids, because it's a lot tougher. You can't make the same decisions that you would have made before. I have a son, so my risk taking had to be very, very calculated. I have a spouse to take care of. That had to be very, very calculated. And she was an impeccable support on my leap. She actually pushed me to get out of there because she saw how unhappy I was at the job.
Thank you. So I hear your calculated plan. I hear you use some of your assets to fuel your dream. But you were a grown man when you did that. We're talking to high schoolers today. And so how could they start to create a safety net for them to maybe live off of or bankroll their dream 5 or 10 years from now? What do you suggest?
Yeah, so you guys can start saving money from your part-time jobs, full-time jobs. Allocate a certain amount, decide what that is that makes you comfortable. It may be 20% of your paycheck that you're able to put into an account. So you would, it helps open up a bank account, start putting money into that. There are options. You may need some adult assistance on how to earn money from the money that you're putting up through like money market accounts and such, where you're earning from the interest of the money that you're actually putting up to save it as you're going through your entrepreneurial journey, as you guys are going to be creating companies over the next few years. But I say that you guys' stage is going to be very, very different. That's the majority of what you can do. I wouldn't say go get credit cards and max them out, mess up your credit. Be careful of that. It's going to come, especially if you're going towards college. But some entrepreneurs have done it, like the Google founders. They had credit cards and they used them to create their companies. So there's no one way to answer that. But yeah, just save your money as best as you possibly can and get support, get mentors. I'm here for you guys as well. I'm not just here speaking to you guys and then you go back to your life. I want to be able to talk to you guys on the regular.
Thank you. I think you mentioned that you did some trading. Can you talk a little bit about some of the stocks that you thought were wise investments, being that you didn't have a finance background? Something that maybe at a young age, by 18, I think is the legal age to do that kind of thing. What could they be looking for? What could they be exploring now?
Yeah, so right now, in terms of stocks, you guys know that AI is the big thing, right? Everyone is AI this and AI that. You have NVIDIA. They create the chips that go into the devices that are powering AI. So I want you guys to, you may want to write it down, but in AI you have machine learning and then you have deep learning. So machine learning is learning through the experience as the AI is operating, and then deep learning is comparable to the human brain. So the AI is working the same way that we think. It's an enhanced version of the machine learning, right? So you can invest in stocks like NVIDIA on the stock market. You have to open up an account. I can help assist you with that. Me personally, most of my investments were into cryptocurrency. It's extremely volatile. That means it goes up and down like crazy. But I saw Bitcoin before Bitcoin was what it was now. I told a lot of my friends, hey, look, make sure you buy a Bitcoin right now. They didn't listen to me. And you see Bitcoin, and I told them when it was about $3,000 or so. But the beauty of Bitcoin or crypto in general is you can buy fractions. So you don't have to, you see Bitcoin at $60,000. You don't have to spend $60,000 to get some of the Bitcoin. You can get pennies on the dollar. You can put $20 into it, $50, $100, $150. As Bitcoin's price increases, your money increases, right? So but there's a lot of risk involved in that. But I'm a heavy risk taker. I see the future, right? Anyone in here ever heard of a Blockbuster video? Shouldn't be that many hands here. But they had VHS tapes. This is how we used to watch movies. And Netflix went to them and said, hey, would you guys be willing to buy us? And they laughed them out of the room and said, no, Blockbuster is now bankrupt and defunct. They don't exist anymore. Netflix is, everyone in here watches Netflix, right? Everything has gone digital. So money is going digital, guys. And All cryptos are not volatile. That means you can also buy cryptocurrency that doesn't move in price. They're called stable coins. So you can earn interest from putting money into those stable coins by opening a Coinbase account. And you can earn the APY on the money that you put into the stable coin. So maybe you don't open necessarily a bank account. You can buy the crypto, put $50 into it, and that stable coin and earn 5% every single year on putting it into that stable coin. But there are other cryptocurrencies as well to invest in. There's Ethereum, which is going to be the next one up in terms of what's called market cap, the capitalization of the entire market. So the crypto industry is a $2 trillion industry right now. By the year 2030, we're going to be seeing something insane. It could be 20 trillion. We don't know what it's going to be by then, but just know that it's still the ground floor because you can't go to McDonald's and buy a cheeseburger with Bitcoin. So just understand where you guys are sitting at right now as I'm explaining that to you.
So if you didn't catch that, you mentioned Coinbase. Who here knows what Coinbase is? 1, 2, 3, 4 people? Geesh, all right. So just a quick explanation of Coinbase. Everyone knows what Bitcoin is, yes? I ain't hear you. Awesome. Okay, so you have to go somewhere to buy that, right? Where do you go to buy Bitcoin? There are Bitcoin ATMs at the gas station, but that ain't it. So Coinbase is a digital platform, much like your stock tradings, like your Webull and your Robinhood. Have you guys heard of those for like trading stocks? So Coinbase is a platform, an app, where you can trade and purchase cryptocurrency. So when you mention Coinbase, it's no different than your Robinhood or your Webull or your Facebooks or whatever. It's an app that you download and sign up and have a profile for, and then you set up your payment methods to purchase cryptocurrency. And it's not just Bitcoin on there, as you mentioned, Ethereum and other kinds of coins, stable coins are there for you to kind of play with and practice with before you really risk your money. And again, this is not for everybody, but if you're interested in figuring out if you have extra money or if you work a job or you're getting paid to learn at programs like Math or Journi, comparable salaries that some of those aren't even earning, you could save a few dollars and try and play with that there. Who has a Cash App account? Yeah, you can purchase stocks and crypto through Cash App as well, right? So if you want to learn about it, figure out how much you can afford to lose, $5, $20, purchase and play, see how that works, because the more you find and learn experience in it, the more you can figure out how to manipulate it to your advantage and begin to earn passive income.
Good question. How many people in here do not know what cryptocurrency is? It's okay, like it's okay. I know you guys hear it, but really don't know. It's digital money. So you have cash that you can physically touch. Cryptocurrency is a digital form, so I'm sending you money from me to you without a bank being in between. Bitcoin in particular, if I'm sending you money, Gale is running a computer at her house that's processing it for me to send it to you. So instead of the bank getting that fee, Gale gets the fee. It keeps it all within peer-to-peer through people. So cryptocurrency was created for that reason, to not deal with the banks.
Does that clarify it for those of us who aren't clear on crypto?
My bad, is this the time for questions?
Go ahead.
When you mentioned trading, were you trading equities or cryptocurrency?
Wait, so the question was, were you trading equities or cryptocurrency?
Yeah, primarily cryptocurrency. Yeah, I did some options and stocks, just general investing at a lower price and then sell when it goes higher, but I would say 80 to 90% is crypto.
When you started trading, let's say Bitcoin, what was the price?
In general, it was about $700, and then I got a little more intense when Bitcoin got up to about $3,000. I put a lot more money into it.
So when he was trading, how he able to sustain himself when you start trading with $700, Bitcoin is probably like at 60,000.
Yep.
So that should interest y'all. You like money, cash.
It is very affordable too. There are cryptocurrencies that are 2 cents. So imagine, what's your name here? The hoodie? These one. Aaron? So Aaron, tell me if for 2 cents you could buy a share in something, and then in 20 years that 2 cents is going to be worth $18, would you take it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if someone had a calculator and you say, I have $100, how many shares could you get at 2 cents? And then take that amount, see what it will cost you. And then hypothetically, let's say when money becomes what Netflix is, right? In terms of going digital, say for $18. Now times that by 18. That's the amount of money that you made from that transaction. Because you got it at 2 cents and it went up to $18. So for every 2 cents that you spent, you made the difference between that 2 cents and $18. That's where we are in terms of cryptocurrency right now. You just want to try to pick the best ones.
I just want to know, how do you know, like, what's your feelings, what you want to do, basically?
Some of it is gut feeling in terms of, like, for me, my mission is to make humanity a lot better because I think a lot of people are not happy in terms of work-life balance. So it wasn't just, it was something that I had a pain point for when I was working, but I know so many people who are working jobs, and by the time they come home from work, they make dinner, they help their kids with homework, their day is over. And they do that 5 days a week, 40 years, 50 years. And that isn't life. So for me in general, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing for Aphid. In terms of outside of Aphid, I have other hobbies and things that I enjoy because I'm naturally creative, but that's where it comes from.
You got another question right here?
So looking at Aphid, as a company that leans heavily on the use of AI and language learning models, how are you guys future-proofing, knowing that there's chip shortages, that there's difficulty progressing in technology, and how are you guys making sure that you're going to be able to keep up?
Yeah, great question. So we leverage a myriad of different machine learning models that you can, as I call it, like changing the brain out in terms of, let me stand up so you can see. In terms of changing the brain out on the clone. So we call them clones. When you create your digital self, you can use Llama, GPT, Grok. We have our own called Invariant. So as there are shortages, there's nothing you can do about that market, right? Unless we take venture capital to build our own chips. But according to Moore's law, as time progresses, things are going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
I'm Memory. So I have a question about Aphid and its functionality. So can you walk me through, I know like people are, you're doing the beta testing and everything, so can you walk us through how someone's day would look using Aphid? Like are they an entrepreneur? Do they work for a specific company where, you know, AI is sort of like limited to privacy?
Great question. Yeah. So if you're using it for personal use, let's just say you're a barber, right? You would go into our platform, you go to the web app, and then you start to ingest the information based on the things you wanted to say to your clients. So I would go to your particular profile, personal profile, and I can talk to your clone. So the information that you put into your clone as I'm talking to it through a chatbot, it's from your own brain. So now you're at the beach, spending time with family or at a barbecue, whatever you want to do. Meanwhile, your clone is talking to 20, 30 people at one time. You're not creating time leverage. And in terms of business owners, like small, medium-sized businesses, they call them SMBs. Small, medium-sized businesses don't have the capital, so they can't hire staff. So they're going to be creating these different clones to do a myriad of different things, like responding to emails, doing things online. So the web app is more of the advanced, like where you're monitoring it, right? But that's what a typical day is going to look like. You're going to go into the mobile app or the web app. You're watching the digital clone of yourself work, almost like, as my shirt says, digital workers in your pocket.
One of the things that aren't really taught to us at a young age, but I think it's important to talk about, is networking, which is something that you mentioned. So how did you build a relationship with people that you knew were important and people that you knew would help you in the long run?
Great question. So networking, as important as it is, this is going to sound like a little like hypocritical, but networking lot of times is really, really garbage. Most of the networking events you guys are going to go to are going to be people who just want to hear themselves talk, and they want people to come up talking to them all day, and like, they're like tooting their own horn, right? That's what most of networking events are. A lot of times you'll leave networking events and nothing really comes out of it. This is where the sauce is spend the majority of your time in the lab like a mad scientist working on what it is that you do. That way when you actually go to networking events, you have something to show, you have something that's ready, right? And you can properly collaborate. Another thing about networking as well that you want to be careful of is it's very important to collaborate, but you have to be very careful. There are a lot of people who don't remember where they got an idea from, so as you're talking about your idea and certain things, people will subconsciously steal those ideas and talk about what your company is for them. They'll talk about a company that they've created to do these different things, and they completely ripped off what it is that you're doing for your company. And say, hey, man, can you show me how to create a competitor, basically. Like, it's nonsensical, right? It's crazy. So those are my thoughts on networking events. But I'm not saying don't network. Definitely network and meet new people. There are great people, but just use your gut to decide who's a bad player and who's not. Some people are wolves in sheep clothing.
I share my mic with another question that's coming up, so I wanted to piggyback onto your answer to this young lady's question. I say in everything Brandon said, but what I will also reiterate is as you're networking, sometimes networking is strategic friendship making, right? Which is why in school it's important for you to learn to be social. I know a lot of us sometimes don't like to talk or are really quiet or don't know how to kind of really put ourselves out there. But if we're thinking to be entrepreneurs, we have to learn how to be social, learn how to leave outside of our comfort zone. So like Brandon shared a quote with you. Does anyone remember the quote? You deserve everything you tolerate. So if you tolerate putting yourself in the corner, you don't deserve the success that comes with being social, right? But in addition to that, what I tell most of my students, my children, my friends, is life begins where your comfort zone ends. So if you're not a talker, if you're not someone who has those soft skills, you either need to partner with someone who is or practice, right? And then when you do, sometimes networking is not going to an event, shaking hands and hearing ourselves talk. Sometimes it's being in college and hearing your dorm mate or your friend's idea and saying, hey, I have something to contribute to that. Or hey, you said something that contributes to what I'm trying to do. Let's pick each other's brain. Let's talk, right? Sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, networking across is simply just being social, right? And the more you talk to people, the more you realize where your synergies lie. So for example, in addition to me working alongside Journi and doing the tech work that I do, I also have a background in public relations and organizational communication. Brandon and I went to school together a couple of times. And in doing so, I heard the idea before he even launched it. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. I hope you can do it, right? Like, I'm rooting for you. And networking isn't just about meeting someone you don't know and trying to find synergy. Sometimes it is networking across and finding synergy with people that you know. So for all of us who are antisocial or don't like to talk or don't like to go out or don't like to do this or that, that's why parents and teachers try to put you in groups. That's why they're trying to put you in activities. That's why you're in school sometimes instead of being homeschooled, is to learn how to find synergy with people because the world is not operating in a vacuum. You interact with people no matter what. So if you're not good at it, you have to find a way to strengthen that muscle. I'm gonna come to you in a second. We got a question over here.
So my question is like about how with Aphid you can like make clones to like do work for you. Like I have a question about like the legal implications about that because I'm thinking like okay that's nice and all but like we're like making 2D clones to do 2D jobs and like there's like certain like label laws like how would that like work because I'm thinking like you know how there were no cars until cars were made. Like, there might not be any issues with this now to like keep this off, but like, how would you go about that legally?
Yeah, just mainly the legal ramifications in terms of as you're creating your clone and just doing so many jobs, like what prohibits certain things from occurring. So if you're in healthcare or if you're a therapist, certain things, all it is automation. So it's just RPA systems, robotic process automation. You're just automating the things that you would say, but you have to be very careful. So it has to be HIPAA compliant. So if you're in the healthcare industry, there are certain things that your bot may say. Or if, for instance, there's like cannabis, right, which isn't legal everywhere, like marijuana, right? If someone is selling it on their website, then make sure the person is at least of age, right? And you're selling certain products to the people that you're talking to. So all of these things are what are normal business practices. It's coming from a human that's actually ingesting the information. So for every clone, there is a human operator who is attached to that particular clone with an ID. So you will have an Aphid ID as an operator, and then your clone will operate. So if your clone is operating a certain way, it's going back to you as a human who's responsible for it, or company A, B, C, D.
Okay, so I'll leave room for about 3 more questions here. There's a good lady there, and then Richard. And then I want to give Brandon time to kind of show you the website for Aphid, and then he also wanted to help anyone else who's interested in pitching, pitch practice. So if you do have another question, I ask that you kind of make it quick so that we can maximize our time. 1 second.
Okay, so I have a question. So how does the cloning work? Is it like deepfakes or like artificial intelligence, like matching your face? And also, how do you plan to make money with this app or website?
So if you want to also like kind of head to the computer, you can kind of show them more if you need to.
So the website is really on the marketing side of things. We haven't launched the web app, but we've been doing internal testing. So a big thing that we talk about with like lock-in is the user interface. So you definitely want to create a certain experience where it feels like Apple, right? I'm an Apple guy. No offense to the Android people here, Green Bubble people. I know that's a whole iOS versus Android thing, but you want a clean interface. Less is more. You don't want to do too much. I've always been a dark theme person, even when like Google, Apple, everything was just like white color. Even in 2018, I always wanted to go dark theme. Everyone is doing dark theme. That's really just our color scheme. So as a company, you'll start to create a branding guide and a design guide when you choose your colors for your company. Like for instance, if you think about red and yellow, you think about McDonald's. Or if you think about pink and orange, you think about Dunkin' Donuts, right? There's a color association with a certain company. So you want to do the exact same thing with the company. But we've been featured in CBS, we've been featured in Forbes, NBC, Techstars, as she mentioned, and a lot of others. So over 30 different publications to this date. And we just explained what the company is, that we're an automation network. It's going to save you time and earn you money. So it has to have some type of value proposition. We call it value prop. What are you offering to your potential customers and clients that they're going to want to come back? Why do I actually need this particular product? And this is built for individuals and businesses. Everyone needs to save more time. And you guys are all millennials, right? Or at this generation, like we're millennials and and younger. People don't want to work until they're 72, right? There's nothing against people who actually do, but we don't want to work as much as our parents' generations did, right? But one of our slogans is another you works for you. So you're able to put yourself in multiple places at a time. So the way that it's going to work is you're going to find environments for your clones to work or where you want them to work. Our system is going to automatically deploy your clone to those environments that need your help. If it needs your human help, you'll be able to jump in and add the human input to earn more money, tips, things like that in the future. So we've done alpha testing. We haven't launched yet, but our beta is coming out within the next 2 months. We have over 20 celebrities signed up, over 3,000 users signed up for the platform, and the price is increasing from here. But on the website, we show, we talk about how it works, how you're going to be using it, and then you want to have some type of depiction of someone being happy. They do it on commercials. They have these stupid, like pharmaceutical commercials where they talk about diabetes and the risk of heart attack and all these things, and they have people smiling. It's sending mixed messages, but as you're watching it, it's programming your eyes to believe that this is a good product, and it's actually not, right? But in this case, we're doing the benefit for good of the people. So you create your digital self, You're really automating your own schedule. You're delegating your labor to the bots. You're going to choose a subscription plan, and then as soon as the bots fulfill the task, if it's doing automated trading for you, you're getting paid instantly. And you're not waiting every 2 weeks to earn money. So I'm sure that we're anticipating most of our growth is going to come from small, medium-sized businesses, but there's going to be a huge gig economy aspect. Like people drive for Uber or drive for DoorDash and they make extra money. People are going to be utilizing Aphid to earn extra money right from home. Because I would rather have my bots operating for me in my pocket, earning money that way, than get in the car, dropping the food off in the rain, and doing that all day. But yes, and then in the footer of the website, you always want to have the link to the social media accounts, and then you have your like the leadership here. We have people from different aspects of life in our team. We have advisors as well. It doesn't matter how successful you think you are, you should always have a team. You should always have mentors. You should always have advisors.
Alright, we got another question over here.
So I'm currently in college, and I know you didn't enjoy your time at Aphid, but I was wondering, how did you like get there?
Yeah, to Apple. Really got lucky, just applying for jobs at the time, and entrepreneurship is really, really rough sometimes, where you do have to go to a job environment. You have to pay bills, right? You have to take care of yourself. So I do want to preface that as you guys are taking risks, don't leave a job until you have at least a certain amount of savings to take that leap, because you'll see a lot of crap on the internet, like leave your job, do what you need to do, but you have to feed yourself. You don't want to not be able to go to the movies or pay for food or pay for gas. This is really, really unsettling. And you're going to go through a lot of that for a really, really long time, as up and down. But what's going to help you is your ability to listen. Like right now, I'm giving you guys a slew of other information, like pitfalls to try to avoid, because most of the people are going to lie to you. But what you see on the surface isn't what happens behind the scenes. It's way different.
Yeah, so one of my questions was actually really aligned with her, because we have like three college students, and two of them are computer science majors, I believe. So like do you have any advice for someone who's in college, like what steps they can do to kind of get that good opportunity in college or after college? And I have a follow-up question.
Certainly. I would say cybersecurity is going to be, if you're going job-based, cybersecurity is going to be huge. If you want to start a cybersecurity company, it's going to be great, because what's also coming after AI is going to be quantum computing. And that's going to impact blockchain, which is the technology that happens behind cryptocurrencies. So quantum computing is where they're like supercomputers. So you guys know you pull up a website and everything happens quickly. These quantum computers are moving at a rapid pace. So if you start learning about quantum computing, being in computer science is going to be really, really important for the future, either by starting a company or going to work for a company.
The last one, well, I got more, but this is the last one I asked. So if you feel that, do you feel that your job has helped to prepare you for entrepreneurship, and if so, or any other things that you've been through in life, what are some of those things that have prepared you for entrepreneurship?
Yes. Even Apple, it started off great, and then towards the end, it wasn't as great. But what I learned a lot was like how to create tickets, when things come up, like certain issues. I talked to a lot of customers on the phone, and I became not like their therapist, but I was talking to them for at least an hour sometimes, 2 hours. I just needed someone to talk to. That helped me with sales, that helped me to talk to people. I had to manage teams when I was at Apple. I had to attend meetings virtually because we did everything from home. So all of those things I was able to take to my company, because Aphid is primarily built completely remote. We have people in different states, different countries that are a part of the company. And then we also work with virtual assistants as well. So I had to be up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock just to catch someone in India at a certain time to speak with them, right? So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
I want to piggyback off of the information that Brandon shared with the young lady's question and then Richard's follow-up questions. So one of my recommendations for trying to find like a fruitful job after college would be intern. and intern a lot, right? When I was in undergrad, I looked up the list, you guys, when you get in college, they'll give you like a list of classes that you gotta take to complete your major. And in those classes, there's typically like one internship. So I did that, one internship. And it was the hardest thing for me trying to find a job after my bachelor's degree, because I had only had one piece of experience that lasted maybe a semester. And so the hard thing about it, whether you're in college and you're trying to get an internship, or out of college trying to get a job, is that they want experience, but you gotta have experience to get experience. Well, in college, internships are specifically for students. Even in high school, there are some. Things like this are even better. This is why, for those of you who have been participating because your mama told you to, or because you had to, this really is a blessing in disguise for you. Because you need experience to get experience, so get as much as you can. Sometimes those internships are going to be more valuable in some instances than your classes, right? Because you're gonna learn things out of class work experience. That's why if you look at, as high school students, you guys have to have like permits and stuff, and you get them from your high schools, because that goes back to the school to let them know you've had out of class work experience, right? Which validates like the level of experience and education you have. Is kind of a little bit more in depth than someone who just sat in class all day. So there's that. And then to piggyback off of Richard's question, which also kind of ties all in, he asked, what did you learn at those jobs to help you become an entrepreneur? And whether you want to become an entrepreneur or a director or a VP or whatever it is, the job is not just to line your pockets with money. The job is not just to pay your bills. You learn something at that job. So for me, working, I learned how to manage teams. I learned how to build processes in place for businesses, because just like Richard, just like Brandon, I have my own business, right? So I have to figure out how to run that, right? If you have a talent or you have a skill, you might can do that skill, but do you know how to run the business to sell and to run that skill? And so when you're at your jobs, when you're at your internships, this is where you learn how to network. This is where you learn how to be social, even though you won't want to, because you gotta attend the meeting if you want the money, right? You can't just not attend the meeting because you don't talk. Time to talk, right? So you learn how to be social, you learn how to network, you learn how to lead a team, you learn how to be part of a team, you learn what software systems work for what kind of processes you're trying to do. You know what tools help to propel this particular skill or this particular function. When you're at your jobs and your internships, act like a spy, act like a mole. What software do they use? Do they sell that at a cheaper rate for students, or at a cheaper rate for entrepreneurs, or sold just individual people like Adobe, right? Right now, as students, you guys can get Adobe, the Creative Cloud suite for $20, $30. Enterprises are paying thousands for that same thing, right? And even then, for me to be a manager running that and giving it to a subordinate who's doing some job in my team, I have to pay for you to have that, and then I have to pay for the next person to have that, and then the next, they're called licenses or seats, right? But you guys can have that same software for $20 or $30 a month, and you can have access to all of the Adobe apps, not just one or two, right? So take advantage of that now, because then that overhead becomes way cheaper than if he or I were to sign up for Adobe right now. He gets slapped with the enterprise cost. You get slapped with $30, which is a night out on Friday, right? So learn while you're there. Check out what they have. Figure out how you can get that on your own home computer, right? So you're there to learn how to be a VP. You're there to learn how to be an entrepreneur. People that you work for are entrepreneurs. They just are entrepreneurs who have built their business so big that they can employ you and everybody else, right? But they are exactly that, entrepreneurs. So watch how they set up their businesses. But I would definitely say internships and then talking to people. You should always have a board of directors, right? Not as a business, as a person. Who do you talk to get advice? Who do you talk to about a problem? Who do you talk to who can put their name on the line for you? Which means, oh, you know what, I know Brandon has this good business, and I'm gonna recommend him to somebody because I believe in him, and I believe in him enough to put my good name and my reputation on the line by backing his play, right? You need someone who is going to say, I like how Michael works, and he's a good student, and he is, you know, he has a hard work ethic, so I'm going to call Richard and tell Richard, give Michael an internship because he needs this experience. Now, when Michael goes to this internship and works for Richard, it's off the strength of my name and my relationship with Richard, right? And if Michael screws that up, guess who's not on Michael's board of directors anymore? Me, because I can't trust him to do what I believed in him to do, right? So you need someone who is going to put their name on the line for you. You need someone who's going to give you their experience and their background. You need someone who's going to tell you the truth about things that most people don't tell you because they want to sound like they did this great thing, right? You want people to really move the curtain and show you what it is, and that's how you succeed. You know, they say, what's the saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Because you need perspective, and you need, like, you're not the master of everything. So you need a team to help you with the rest of the things that you're not that great at, right? Even Richard, he runs his program, but he's not teaching every class. He's not coordinating everything because he wants his organization to go far. So he goes together with a team. That's why you see Shay and Josh and Kelly and the team, right? Because it takes more than one person to go far. We don't have any more questions, do we? Okay, great. So, everybody want to thank Brandon for his So we have about 20 minutes left, and I know a lot of you have a pitch coming up. If there's anyone else who wants to come up here and practice their pitch and get some critique from Brandon, some criticism from Brandon, and hear, you know, even if you're not going to try your pitch, but you want to hear how someone else is pitching and what he has to say about it, I encourage you to stay. Is there anyone who wants to volunteer and give us their pitch or their prototype? You do? Where's your team? The two of you? Come on up. If you're not practicing your pitch, I still encourage you to stay. Witness how they're pitching, because this is your competition, and you don't always get it inside school on your comp, on the ops. And then also listen to the constructive criticism that someone who's been through this before is going to give.